Hey folks, it's Michael Johnson. Welcome to this week's Energy Sketch. I'll be talking about this book, Loon Shots by Safi Bahcall. How to nurture the crazy ideas that win wars, cure diseases, and transform industries. So I just started reading the book and I only read the introductory chapter so far, but I knew I had to make an energy sketch about this. And so he talks about the phenomenon of phase change and draws a parallel between how phase changes work in nature and how they work in organizations, and what this means for how well breakthrough ideas potentially can travel through organizations or not. So let's think about this phenomenon of phase change. And if you think about a container of liquid water, throw something in the water, it's going to go splash. It's liquid water, it can move around. And specifically, if you imagine you had an idea feather, see my other videos on ideas as feathers. But that feather, that idea can easily travel through the water and it can generate momentum, it can generate movement, the same way that a bird can easily sort of flow and swim through water, those birds that go underwater for fishing. So these ideas can easily travel, can churn up, can move around within that liquid water. However, if you start cooling down that water, it's going to turn into ice through a phase change. And that poor dear idea feather is going to be paralyzed and kind of fossilized in the ice, unable to move through because we've changed phase from liquid to solid. And so the phase change phenomenon is a kind of a interaction between the attraction and the repulsion, and as you change the temperature, as you lower the temperature, the entropy, the randomness gets lower and you get more rigid structures, that like solid rigid structures. And so the parallel that he draws to organizations is that when you have a liquid system, then these ideas can flow through the organization and can get out, can be made into new products and new services. But when the organization also undergoes a phase change, then it tends to become rigid. And those ideas, those feathers of ideas, can get stuck in the organization, get killed, get stopped. Potentially breakthrough ideas can easily get killed, get stopped in organizations that have become sort of rigid after phase change. And in the organization, there are two factors that interact also in the phase change phenomenon, which are stake and rank. And we can plot those over time slash size of the organization. If you imagine a very small organization, maybe a solo operation or a small dynamic startup, the stake is very high because everyone's got a stake in this thing. And as you grow, and over time, as the organization grows, builds, gets more and more complex and bigger with bigger hierarchies and levels of hierarchy, typically the stake for any one person in that organization tends to go down. Conversely, the rank starts very low. Everyone's sort of at the same rank, typically at the beginning in a very small organization. And then over time, as a thing grows, then you get more and more ranks, more and more hierarchies. And so there's this area there, this sort of mushy middle that we need to manage in between. If you go too far to the right, too big, too complex, then that's where ideas get killed. People that don't even know anything about the idea will just look at it and say, no, that will never work. We don't do that here, right? As you get these levels and levels of hierarchy, the idea needs to fight harder and harder and harder to make its way from the lower level where the people have been inspired and come up with ideas to flow through and to get out into the world. And so we really need to be careful of how we manage that mushy middle. And so we can also have a coexistence of states, right? If you imagine a glass of ice water, there can be ice inside the water. And so ideas could still flow there as long as they don't get stuck onto those ice cubes and get immobilized. And as long as the temperature doesn't go too low, in which case the entire glass will, boom, suddenly freeze into hard ice, locking those potentially breakthrough ideas in place. So my question to you is, how do you manage this interplay between stake and rank, and how well do you think potentially breakthrough ideas travel through your organization? Love to hear from you in the comments or on LinkedIn, on anywhere else. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Energy Sketch. Episodes go live Monday, 12 p.m. youtube.com/@EnergySketch. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be well. Have a great week, folks. Toodaloo!